Microsoft's terms of service for Copilot, this is the AI tool they charge $30 a month for per user. The one they literally spent $37 billion building. The tool that their CEO, Satya Nadella, calls an indispensable coworker. Well, those terms of service contain one single sentence that completely went viral in April 2026.
Copilot is for entertainment purposes only. Yeah, you heard that right. It's literally the exact same disclaimer a late-night psychic uses so they don't get sued. And of course, the internet just exploded. The mockery was absolute and immediate. Microsoft had to scramble trying to explain that, hey, it was just legacy language left over from Copilot's early days as a Bing chatbot.
But honestly, the story behind that one sentence is so much bigger than just a legal disclaimer. It's really the story of a company making the single biggest AI bet in history, and how they're now in this massive race against time to actually make that bet pay off. It perfectly illustrates this huge paradox we're looking at. And right here, this is the number that explains everything: 3.3%.
Today, we are covering 1. What is Copilot? 2. The adoption problem. 3. The GitHub exception. 4. The competition. 5. The radical pivot. And 6. What it means for you.
Section 1. What is Microsoft Copilot? The embedded AI layer. Okay, so Microsoft Copilot is the company's AI layer, and it is embedded across practically every Microsoft product you probably already use. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, Teams, Windows, Edge, GitHub. If you use a Microsoft product, Copilot is either already sitting right there or it's coming very soon. The core idea here is super straightforward. AI that actually lives inside the tools you work with, not some separate app you have to constantly switch over to. You're writing an email in Outlook, Copilot drafts it. You're in Excel, it builds the formula. Sitting in a Teams meeting, Copilot is taking the notes, summarizing the whole discussion and flagging action items. Or if you're a developer in GitHub, it's right there suggesting your next line of code. The sheer scale of this project is just staggering. Microsoft poured $13 billion into OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. And that partnership is what gave Copilot access to the GPT models, which became the absolute foundation for every single Copilot product across the whole Microsoft ecosystem. And the vision? It was massive. Satya Nadella described it as Microsoft's biggest opportunity since the internet itself. Financial analysts were predicting Copilot could hit $10 billion in annual revenue by the end of 2026. So, how is it actually going?
Section 2. The adoption problem. Missing the mark. Let's look back at that number that explains everything again. 3.3%. See, Microsoft has 450 million Microsoft 365 commercial subscribers. That's 450 million people who are using Word, Excel, Outlook, and Teams every single day for their jobs. And Copilot is sitting right there, completely built in, just one click away.
But out of those 450 million potential customers, only 3.3% are actually paying for it. That comes out to roughly 15 to 20 million paid seats. And remember, this is after 2 whole years on the market, and after they spent $37.5 billion in a single quarter on AI infrastructure alone. It's definitely not that people don't know Copilot exists, right? It's literally baked into Windows. It sits right there in your taskbar. Satya Nadella has talked about it on every single earnings call for 2 years straight. The real problem is that when people actually try using it, a lot of them just stop.
The data from Recon Analytics tells the story pretty bluntly. Copilot's accuracy net promoter score, or NPS, literally fell off a cliff, dropping from negative 3.5 in July 2025 down to negative 24.1 by September 2025. And just to put that in perspective, a negative NPS like that means way more people are actively warning their coworkers away from the product than recommending it. Among the users who did stop using the tool, 44.2% said the primary reason was just pure distrust of its outputs. In fact, when given a free choice between Copilot, ChatGPT, and Gemini, only 8% of workers actually picked Copilot. And then, well, there's the fragmentation problem. Microsoft has created 80, yes, 80 different products and features all carrying that Copilot brand name. One researcher actually mapped them all out in this viral post. You've got Microsoft Copilot, Copilot for Microsoft 365, GitHub Copilot, Copilot Studio, Copilot for Azure, Copilot for Sales, Finance, Service, Pages, Cowork. It's 80 versions of the exact same brand. It's creating confusion so deep that customers literally don't know which one they need or if they even have it already. So the company that was supposed to absolutely dominate enterprise AI is dealing with a massive fragmentation problem and a massive trust problem all at the exact same time.
Section 3. The exception. Why GitHub Copilot works. Now, there is one Copilot product that is genuinely working, and looking at it tells you exactly why all the others are struggling. GitHub Copilot. That's the AI coding assistant built straight into developers' code editors. It boasts 4.7 million paid subscribers. That's up 75% year over year. GitHub's annual recurring revenue topped $3 billion at the end of 2025. And get this, roughly 90% of Fortune 100 companies have it deployed right now.
So why does GitHub Copilot work so well when the others just don't? Well, it's because developers can see the output instantly. They can verify it in seconds. You ask it to write a function, it writes it, you run it, it either works or it doesn't, right? There's absolutely zero ambiguity. There's no hallucination problem that the user can't just immediately catch and fix. But the failure mode for Copilot in, say, Word or Outlook, it's completely different. You ask it to draft an email to a client and it writes something that sounds super confident and fluent, but it might have the wrong figures or the wrong names or totally miss the context, and you won't catch it unless you already know the answer. That right there is what drives the distrust. That is what absolutely killed their NPS score. GitHub Copilot succeeded because that feedback loop is instant. The other Microsoft Copilots are failing because their feedback loop is invisible until something goes terribly wrong.
Section 4. The competition is winning, losing ground. And while Microsoft's broader Copilot was struggling, the competition definitely wasn't waiting around. ChatGPT rocketed to 800 million monthly active users. Meanwhile, Claude became the default AI for enterprise precision work at major companies like Netflix, Spotify, and Salesforce.
And in coding, specifically, which is GitHub Copilot's home turf, a startup called Cursor arrived on the scene and just started taking market share at a speed that literally set off internal alarms over at Microsoft. Executives were issuing warnings inside the company back in 2026 that GitHub Copilot's early lead was eroding really fast. Cursor, Anthropic's Claude Code, and even OpenAI's own Codex were all rapidly gaining ground. At one point, there was this massive 14-fold spike in GitHub platform traffic from AI tools, and it strained their infrastructure so much it caused outages, which of course frustrated enterprise customers at the exact worst possible moment. The competitive gap is very real right now. Given a head-to-head choice, developers are increasingly picking Cursor for the user experience and Claude Code for the quality. Sure, GitHub Copilot still has that huge installed base advantage. I mean, having 90% of the Fortune 100 is incredibly hard to dislodge, but that loyalty is definitely eroding. And on the consumer side, that entertainment purposes only moment just crystallized this huge perception problem that had been building up for 2 whole years. Microsoft built an AI platform meant to make workers highly productive, but then buried a disclaimer in the terms of use basically saying, hey, you probably shouldn't trust this for important decisions.
Section 5, what Microsoft is doing about it. The super app pivot. But listen, Microsoft is not just sitting still here. What they announced over the last 2 weeks changes the picture significantly. On May 29, 2026, Fortune reported that Microsoft is building a Copilot super app. It's going to be a single, unified interface that bundles GitHub Copilot, Copilot Chat, Copilot Coworker, and a brand new internal tool called Autopilot, all into one hub. They're targeting a launch for late summer 2026. And this product is being led by Jacob Andreu, the newly appointed head of Copilot, and he has a very direct mandate: fix the fragmentation problem.
The most significant new piece of this is Copilot Coworker. Instead of just generating one-off responses, Coworker can actually plan and execute multi-step tasks totally in the background. So you can delegate a real piece of work like research this topic, draft a report, pull data from these 3 sources and summarize it, and Copilot just handles it autonomously while you go do something else. You monitor the progress, review the checkpoints, and step in if you need to. This is a massive shift from just an AI assistant to an AI agent, and it's easily the most meaningful upgrade Copilot has shipped so far. On top of that, Microsoft has started ditching its total dependence on OpenAI. They are now developing their own proprietary AI models specifically for coding. They've restructured GitHub leadership into their core AI division, and they're preparing to move to usage-based billing. So while the OpenAI partnership is still the backbone, Microsoft is definitely hedging its bets.
And the money? It just keeps coming. Microsoft announced plans to invest a mind-blowing $146 billion in AI infrastructure in 2026. That is roughly double last year's $88 billion. Plus, their paid seat count jumped 250% year over year. So whatever problems they're facing right now, Microsoft is absolutely not treating this as a product they're going to wind down.
Section 6. What this means for you. Should you pay? Okay, so here is the practical question. If you use Microsoft products at work, should you actually be paying for Copilot? Well, the honest answer depends entirely on which one we're talking about. If you're a developer, GitHub Copilot at $10 a month is honestly still one of the best value AI tools available. Even with Cursor gaining ground, the deep GitHub integration and that massive Fortune 100 deployment make it the default choice for most enterprise engineering teams.
But if you use Microsoft 365 for work, you need to be very specific about what problem you're actually trying to solve. Look, Copilot in Teams for meeting notes, it is genuinely useful and will save you real time. Copilot in Excel for formula help? Solid. But Copilot in Outlook for drafting emails, it's still unreliable enough that you're going to need to verify every single thing before hitting send. You've got to know exactly which use case you are paying for before committing that $30 a month. And if you're a business evaluating Enterprise Copilot, take that 3.3% adoption rate as a serious warning. Before you go out and buy 500 seats, run a structured pilot with maybe 20 users for 30 days. Measure their actual usage, not just their access. Because most of the companies that failed to see an ROI from Copilot, they bought the seats first and tried to figure out the use case second. The new super app coming in summer 2026 is definitely worth watching though. If Microsoft can actually unify the product, fix the horrible fragmentation, and make Coworker's agent capabilities genuinely reliable, well, the adoption story could look very, very different by the end of the year.
Now here is the ultimate question that's going to tell you whether Copilot is worth it for you. Think of the 3 tasks you spend the absolute most time on during your work week. Then go over to copilot.microsoft.com, it's totally free to try, and test each one of those tasks. Does Copilot handle it faster? Does it handle it accurately? And most importantly, would you trust the output without checking it? If the answer is yes to all 3, it's probably worth paying for. But if it's a no to any one of those, you've got your answer.
The whole entertainment purposes only moment was super embarrassing for Microsoft, no doubt about it. But the company has a $146 billion bet on fixing it, and the super app launching this summer is their real answer. I'm your host. This is The Explainer, the most important tools shaping the world in plain English. Every week, subscribe. And drop in the comments, will a unified super app be enough to save Microsoft's $146 billion gamble, or is the damage to their AI trust already done? See you in the next one.